All right, class. So we're going to look at this tire problem, and it's going to apply a ratio just like the TV problem. So the whole theme here is how these ratios are applied and how they work. Okay, so here's a tire problem. And what happens here is when you change the size of your tires, it affects your speed and how far you're traveling. Okay, so if you're going further distance with less spins, you're going faster. If you're going less distance with more spins, okay, you're not going as fast. So there's kind of things going on there. And all this, all the cars nowadays are computerized. You just change your tires on your car. It's not just that simple. You actually have to punch these numbers that you're going to read about here and put them into the computer so that the car can adjust shifting patterns and all that if you don't do that. And some of them even can like manually and self-adjust itself to pick up on this. But if you don't do that, it could cause your car to not drive correctly because the shifting would be off. And it can also cause transmission troubles with the car. So damage your car pretty expensively just changing out some tires. So it's kind of a big deal, especially with newer cars. Um, when you change out these things. The older cars, you just change them; they just kind of go, and but none of your gauges are accurate. So what we're going to do here's the main questions that you're answering in this thing. Um, so if your odometer reading is 2,000, you have actually traveled how many miles? Okay, so 20,000. I'm sorry. So that's telling you how far you're going. Okay, so if it's not picking up right, then it's not working. If your speedometer reading is 60, your actual speed is blank miles per hour. So that's another thing right there. Okay, so those are the two main things you're going to do. And basically, we're going to do it is we're going to use the ratio of height to width. Okay, so it says height to width. So height to width. And if you remember from the TV problem, it's backwards. The TV was width to height. Okay, so you got to pay attention to the order of words, height to width. All right. Okay, so we're going to use the rim diameter. We'll need to know that ratio, and we'll need to know the width of the tire in millimeters. So when they're talking about the width of the tire, basically, I wonder if this is a light enough color. Yeah, it is. All right, it's talking about the tread right here. Okay, that would be the width of the tire, and then between here, where these two bars are trying to show is that between there, that is the height of the tire. Okay, basically what's called the sidewall, and that's the height. Okay, um, and what we're gonna have to be mindful from is that there's two heights, and it's all one height. But when you're trying to get the entire wheel, because we're gonna need the diameter. So hope I spelled that right. Okay, the diameter. Um, Again, you got these two heights, and then you got the rim diameter. Okay, so your car doesn't just spin the rim; it's the wheel that's changing sizes. So basically, what the aspect ratio does is it makes sure there's enough width to height ratio. So if you have more width, you lose height. Okay, and then you have a really bad ride. There's hardly any sidewall there to kind of help absorb, and it's all falling on your shock absorbers in your frame, and then eventually to your body. Um, or if you have too much height, then you're gonna have less width, and then you don't have as good grip on the road. So all kinds of other things on there, and then of course there's other factors like material of the tire and stuff, which can kind of play with those tolerances a little more. But that's what the aspect ratio is, and certain cars, trucks, depending on weight, have to have a certain ratio there. Okay, so the calibration of the speed speedometer and the odometer is based on the circumference of the vehicle's factory installed tires. So again, we're looking for circumference here. All right, and there's two equations we're using. We're going to use, well, that you can use. So you got 2 pi r, r is the radius, or you can use circumference is equal to pi d, which d is the diameter, which is the radius is half a diameter. So you put 2r equals d basically. So that is two radiuses make your diameter all the way across a circle, which is what your tire emulates here. Okay, so breaking down these numbers right here, this is what you need to know from each tire, and that's what you're going to do on this chart. From these numbers, the P is passenger tire, 245 is the width in millimeters. Guys, pay attention to the units here. All right, 70 is the tire's aspect ratio. Okay, we talked about that already. And then 16 is the diameter of the rim in inches. All right, so already we have millimeters and inches. So you're gonna have to convert between the two. You can ask Google, or you can just hand calculate it. I'll show you a way to do that here in a little bit. Okay. Following principles apply. So remember with the TV problem where we had whether it was on your phone or an IMAX TV screen, all the images appear proportioned. Well, there's a common measurement, and that was the X. And when we did the TV, if you remember, we had that rectangle. We had our aspect ratio of width and height, right? And then if you had like a 16 by 9, all right, those numbers didn't stand alone. It had to go to this common measurement, which was X. And that's what K is here. Okay, K is that constant. All right, so odometer reading times the speedometer reading. And the way you calculate K is right here. It's kind of hidden. K equals the circumference of the bigger tire divided by the circumference of the factory installed tire. So in other words, new tire divided by the old tire. Right there is basically what it's saying. All right, and then I give you a conversion here. 1 inch equals 2.54 centimeters. So you can ask Google or Siri. They can give you all that stuff there. So I mean, whole point of this class is critical thinking, problem solving. All right, take a sip of this coffee. Oh yeah. Okay, so what we're going to do here is you asked to fill out this chart. All right. So I'm going to do this one, and then this one's going to be you. All right, so pay attention to what I'm doing now. I'm going to write my work all in here. You can insert by going to File, Insert, and you can insert your work here to get your numbers here. All right, so that's what's going to happen. So I'm going to do this left column here and kind of show you what I did there. Let me bring up my notes. Okay. All right. Okay, so it's pretty straightforward. So what is the width in millimeters? So we already know that from the numbers. That's going to be 245 millimeters. All right. And then the aspect ratio is 70, but it's as a percent. So this is 70%, which we have to convert to a decimal, all right, which is going to be 0.70 or 0.7. All right, and that's what we're going to use to make our calculations because percents are divided by 100. It's actually a little function in there. So to get rid of that little function, divide by the 100, and then move your decimal place 2 units to the left of wherever it is. All right, so remember that. We're going to be using this a lot all year. Okay, height in inches. All right, so when they're talking about the height, they're talking about the sidewall height, and this we don't know yet. This we do not know yet, so we'll come back to that. They want to know the diameter. Well, we can't figure that out yet, but we do know that the diameter is talking about the entire wheel, and the most common mistake that students are making is you're using the 16. Well, 16 is the rim. Okay, it's not the wheel. We still have, if you look at my picture here, we've gotten this part, and that's where their calculations have gone wrong. So yes, this is 16 inches, but we don't know the height here, and we don't know the height there. Well, that was supposed to be two different colors, but I don't know why it does that. Clearly pressed it. Height and height there. So we got to figure out that height and then add that height to the 16. So 2 times that height. All right. So and that's going to give us our diameter. So in this case, if I was to write a little formula, our diameter, I'm going to call it D, is equal to your rim plus 2 times the height. Okay, one height being the bottom, one height being the top. Okay, so that's what I'm doing there. So your rim size plus 2 times whatever the height is. So we have a problem to where we're kind of stuck. And then of course we can figure out the circumference once we figure out that diameter. We're kind of stuck because we don't know how to get the height there. We got a width, we don't got the height. So what we're going to do is we're going to use the aspect ratio. All right, so draw a better arrow. Use this aspect ratio here. Okay, so so this is kind of what's going, well, this is what's going on. So I know my aspect ratio, I'm just going to put A.R, is equal to your height to width, right? So that's going to be H on top over W, okay? Since we know what the aspect ratio is, so I got 0.70 equals, I don't know the height, but I do know the width, and that width is 245 milliliters. All right. So to solve for this, okay, kind of straightforward. I want the height, so I'm going to multiply both sides by W, right? And in this case, my height will equal, these W's will cancel out, will equal my aspect ratio, all right, times asterisk the width, all right, and that's what we're going to get here. Let me make that clear. I don't like that time, so let's just put times width. All right, so that's the height, and that's what we're going to do here. Okay, we're going to multiply both sides here by 245, right? Those will cancel out, times 245 here, and then get out my little calculator here. Real time math for y'all. All right, so 245 times 0.7, right? And then we get 171.5. All right, so in this case, our height equals 171.5 millimeters. Okay, so we're in millimeters here. So the problem is that we need, our diameter is in inches. So we either need to convert inches into millimeters or the millimeters into inches. But since the chart is asking for inches for the height, we're going to go ahead and take this millimeter and convert it into inches. All right. Furthermore, I'm gonna round this to about 172. All right, millimeters, just to make it a little more round, I guess. So the way we do that is, if you look at this, you can set up a proportion. We'll say 1 centimeter equals 10 millimeters. All right, and then we can use this conversion to set up a proportion, simply just putting a division symbol under it. Okay, so on the left side are centimeters, on the right side are millimeters. What I could do is, and why am I doing centimeters? Because I'm doing this by hand right now. You can ask Siri to convert it and they'll do it, but I'm just going to show you a little math here. I'm using this, so I'm going to go from centimeters to inches. So I'm going from millimeters to centimeters and centimeters to inches. All right, and we know 1 centimeter is 10 millimeters. Okay, I don't know the centimeters here, so I'll call this X. And then I do know that the millimeters, which is 172 millimeters. All right, so here is where I'm going to cross multiply, like we did last time. Stay. All right, and then we get we get 10x equals 172 millimeters, right? Then divide the 10 both sides. All right, and then we're left with x equals 17.2, and now we're in centimeters. All right, so with metric systems, really easy. You just move the decimal around. So if you're going from millimeters to centimeters, you just move it 1 time to the left. So it's divided by 10 or times 10. So it makes it really easy. That was an easy conversion. But what I can now do is I can now take my other calculation where I have 1 inch equals 2.54 centimeters. Okay, and this is a common conversion, so if you can kind of remember this, you'll use this a lot. Okay, so I have centimeters. I don't know the inches, so I have 17.2 centimeters. Okay, do a little bit of cross multiplication, right? And then I'm going to get 17.2. Okay, I clearly pressed a different color. All right, there it is. All right, so I got 17.2 times 1. All right, the 17.2 equals 2.54x. Then divide the 2.54. Okay, so let me kind of separate these out because these are different calculations. All right, and I get these cancel, leaving me with x, and then I get 17.2 divided by the 2.54, and then I get 6.7716. So I'm going to do 6.77. all right, which of course is our height in inches. Okay, 6.77 inches. So we'll put that in there. So 6.77 inches. All right, so now I have the height, and now I can calculate the wheel diameter, which I already told you was, so to calculate the wheel, we're going to, or get the diameter, we're going to use the rim size plus 2 times the height, okay, which is going to be the rim size of 16 plus 2 times 6.77, all right? And then this is going to equal, I have to write it on top there. So we take the 16 plus 2 times 6.77, and I get 29.54. So let's go ahead and say just 29.5. All right, and this is again in inches. All right, and then now I can calculate the circumference. So the circumference equation I'm going to use is C equals pi. Let's draw a better pi d. All right, so we've got pi times the diameter, which is 29.5. Okay, and you can use 3.14 for pi. That's fine. So 3.14 times 29.5. All right, and I'm gonna get 92.63. All right, so there's a lot of tolerance here I've got people because of the rounding to about 91 to 93 inches. So it just depends on how you round. So when I grade these, that's what I look at certain tolerances, and my tolerances are maybe a little looser, but if you're doing something totally different, you do get drastically different numbers. So that's how I know when I'm checking your work. Okay, so we were able to use the aspect ratio to get the height of the tires, and then based on the picture, which was the rim size plus the two heights from the top and the bottom of the rim, gives me the entire diameter. And now that I have the diameter, I could then calculate the circumference. And the circumference is like the perimeter of the tire. So when the tire rolls, that rides on the top of the tire all the way around it. So once you go from one point to the other point, that circumference is the distance traveled in a linear fashion in a straight line. So that's what we're talking about right there. So so after you figure out your part of the chart, okay, what you're going to do, answer these questions. Okay, after one rotation, how many inches further has the truck with the larger tire traveled than the factory installed tires? Okay, so you're basically subtracting circumferences there. All right, on the third question, after one rotation of the wheel on the truck with the larger tires traveled blank times, so the keyword there is times, further than the one with the factory wheels. So they're going to have different distances. So basically, it's going to be a smaller number into the bigger number type situation. And basically, what number 3 is going to do, here's the hint, is that this is going to give you your K. All right, so that's literally the formula for K, which I talked about over here somewhere. There it is. Okay, so that one right there. So look at number 3 there, or on that specific slide. I forget which slide it is. All right, and then use the results from the table. Complete the following statements about the truck after the larger tires have been installed on it. So if you've gone 20,000 miles, what did you actually travel with the bigger tire? And then if the speedometer is reading 60, what is your actual speed limit you're going? So are you getting a ticket or not, and not even realizing it, depending if you have a 60 mile per hour speed. So again, those formulas are found here: actual mileage, actual speed, K times the odometer reading, K times the speedometer reading. All right, and this will be done on the last slide or question. Put an L in there. All right, so there you go, guys. Good luck. The hardest part is doing this chart here. You literally have the formulas up there for the rest of the sheet. Again, if you get lost in the conversions here, you can just ask. I could have just said, all right, Google, how many inches are in 171.5 millimeters? Okay, and then Google would have just spit out 6.77 to you right away. So or showed you some picture or give you a conversion calculator. All right, so, but I just want to show you some of the conversion math behind it. So some of the college stuff doesn't let you use a calculator or your phone in that way. So that's all you do. Just take the conversion and then make a proportion out of it, cross multiply. You're good to go. Alrighty, guys, that's it. I will see you in class.